Hi, folks. I got another little project here. Let's see if you can tell what it is. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I'm getting tired of it. Now, some would say, oh, it's just urethane bushings making noise, that kind of thing. I don't think so. I'm fairly certain it's something a little more serious. Let's take a look. Right. Before we go any further, let's talk about safety. Right now, I basically have up in the air the part of the car that the emergency brake works on. So this car could totally roll away if it wanted to. Now you say, okay, you're working on the back of the car, but you've got your wheel chocks, which is something else you should be using, pointed in front. It could roll right off them, right? But notice what I've done here. See this? These are ramps. No, I didn't drive it up on the ramps. I really couldn't. I jacked the car up and slid the ramps under it, but you see they've got to stop, so that wheel isn't going any further forward. And with these, it's not going to roll back either, so this car isn't going anywhere. Safety is paramount. You do nothing of auto repair without thinking about safety. And I do everything I possibly can. Second, you got to think about the equipment. You don't want to damage anything. So figuring out like where to support your differential, find a spot that looks beefy, that won't crimp, like say your diff cover, so you end up with a new leak, and something that looks like it can actually support the weight. Double it up if you can, because I know what's going to happen is this diff is going to want to drop when I take these shocks out. So to try to counteract that, I'm giving it something to actually hit other than the ground. So yeah, that's true. Travel should be limited, but I don't want to take any chances. I don't want any springs popping out of there. Kids, I had a change of heart before I really got into this. Did a little research. I was on the right track, but I just thought it would be a smarter idea to support the rear differential with my jack stand, or my jack. Mostly because I have this nice thick urethane cover for the thing that won't damage anything or cut anything. It's about an inch thick and it fits over the jack head. I think I got it for like 20 bucks 10 years ago, but you can get them all over the place, Summit and Jigs. But just to kind of support and not damage anything, because if that axle drops, the springs could literally pop out. And was looking at the engineering here, and I'm not real impressed with the way the springs are in this car, the way they did them, because there's not a hell of a lot that keeps them in there. If you look up there, you see that? There's the spring, and it's sitting on nothing but a little perch. It could literally fly out the back if that axle dropped enough. This is another reason why I wanted to change these shocks, because there's a little bit too much suspension travel, and I've been actually hearing the springs make noise back here, and that's not good. So anyway, let's see, what can we see? Oh, okay, right here, that's our panhard bar right here, goes all the way over to here. Sorry guys, it's dark. Did you see this? I'm looking at the condition of the bushings, which actually don't look that bad, and I didn't think they would be. Looking up here, looking at the condition of the panhard bar. Sorry guys, I'm working by myself here, so I do what I can. It's looking alright. I even see some lube on it. I don't think that's what's making our noise. There's springs. Springs are alright. Broken. Nothing like that. This is a very hard car to jack up. Mostly because there's not a lot of jack points on it. It's a lot like a vet. Let's take a look at some of these things here. Here's what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm literally doing this. You're riding along with me. Let's see if we can figure out where that noise is coming from. Let's take a real close look. If we can. Real close look at that shock. Let's see if we can make some noise. Yeah, we're making some noise. I have a sneaky suspicion that most of our noise is coming from these shocks. That, or it's the end links, which I would really expect to be sloppy in pieces if they were that bad. I've seen bad end link bushings before. Anyway, the first thing to do is to get this shock out is we have to take apart the inside of the car. We got to take apart some interior pieces and get some foam out and get a bolt out, and then we'll be able to drop the shock from here. We are supported. We'll need to support the rear end while we do that too. We'll probably move the jack over here. This jack that we use to get the car up, we'll probably have to support the pumpkin here underneath it. Make sure we don't, make the whole rear suspension fall out. So these are the factory springs. Hell, even the factory rubber bushing spacer looks good. This is an Arizona car, so that's why you don't see a whole lot of rust or anything like that. It's in good shape. Just feeling for where this thing is. Yeah, there's the coil. All right. So, and bouncers don't look too bad. They don't look too great either, but at least they're there. So, I was looking at our stops right here. So, looking pretty good. All right. So let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. Let's start pulling some nuts. First thing we have to do is take the top nut out from inside the car. So that's what we'll do. All right. We can get focused here. Nobody said it was going to be easy. To get to the top of the shock towers there, to get the nuts loose, we're going to have to remove the inner pieces here, the inner compartment pieces, and I've just done that for you to expose them, and then pull the carpet forward. You can do that without having to completely remove the interior pieces. And once you do, you've got this funny little piece of foam down here, and if you pop that out, you see the top of the shock. It's right there. That bolt, that right there, that bolt, right there. So, I suppose we should set to work, huh? Let's do it. I want you to see something here. This is a shock. That means it's going to come out a little differently than some other parts on the car. What you have to know is that this shaft is independent of this nut down here. There's a flat on this nut that you can get some vice grips or something on to hold it, but the best thing to use is a shock tool. And all it is a piece of steel carved out, and it's got the same little divot in the top. I usually use this for front shocks, but this car happens to have use for it on the rear. And all you do is you place it over it until it kind of locks in. What that does is that lets you hold this in place. Now, the particular nut is a 15 millimeter. So I got a 15 millimeter wrench, and you just put the wrench on the nut, and then you kind of hold it. This is loose, so no, it's not that easy. Then you take this particular shaft you put on top of the nut. It's pretty much, I think this is a 1/2 inch. Pretty sure this is a 1/2 inch. Let's see. Yep, it's a 1/2 inch. All you do is put this over. I'm sorry, you're not seeing anything. Put this over the shaft of that adapter, and then you're basically you're tightening, but you're actually working against the nut while you actually hold. I'm not holding it, but you hold the crescent wrench. And when you do that, you'll be able to actually remove the nut and get the shock loose. Just take note of that. Also make note, and I'll show you here in a minute, but make note of the parts and what came with it, because this new shock is going to come with new bushings and some extra parts. But remember, these are mass-produced items, so one size fits many. So make sure you know what you need and grab it out of the kit. Don't think you have to use everything, and don't think you can leave anything out that you may need. Let's take a look at the shock we chose. KYB gas adjust. Yes, I know. It's a Japanese shock, but it's not Chinese. Good stuff's made in Japan now, and KYB is a good name. This is actually the OEM recommended replacement for the shocks that came with the car, and I'm pretty sure the shocks that are in the car are factory originals, which means 168,000 miles on a pair of shocks in the rear. Not impressive. I was told it was replaced, but I don't think they were. For my 95 formula, this is the part number here. You can see that. It's like KG5562. So let's see what it looks like. Okay, so we've unboxed it. We get the instructions, the shock itself. Get some bushings and some hardware, and that, even that. That's cool. So we got some hardware. It's a quality shock, good replacement. It's not the most expensive shock I could have bought. That would have been like a QA1, which is like 150 a shock, which is stupid. It's not the cheapest shock I could have bought either. It's a good quality shock that's meant for this vehicle. It's about 35 bucks a piece on Amazon. So, it's the same price as Jegs. It's actually Summit. Jegs doesn't carry these. So, anyway, that's the shocks we'll be putting in. 2 of them. We've got it loose here. Get you a good shot here. We've got the nut loose. Sorry, my hand's in the way. I'm blocking all the light, but we got the nut loose, so we'll take that off. There's the nut. There's the shaft. Take this retainer off. And we'll take the bushing out. And look at that. There's the top of our shock, all free. Nothing in the way. Actually feel it moving around. We'll take a look at our bushing. Bushing is actually in really good shape. So, all right. Well, there's our parts. Right there. Okay. Here's a little history lesson. See this orange pipe here? That's one of my shocks. And the brand is Decarbon by Delco. What that means is this is a 168,000 mile shock. Not bad for that many miles, but about probably 68,000 miles past its life. Anyway, it came out pretty easily. Well, yeah, let's say this. It came out easy if you consider a 13/16 ratchet on the nut here, some liquid wrench, or 3-in-1, and a 5-pound sledge. Basically, I used the sledge to beat on the shaft of the ratchet to break it loose with the penetrating. But that was about all it really took. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the new shock and replicate what's on the old shock. And you see all they used on the old shock was they had the adapter here, a nut, copper washer, and that was it. I went through and held it from that. On the top, I basically reassembled it. These parts, give her a shot on it here. This was what was inside the car. It's here, washer, grommet. These parts were actually on top of the shock under the car. So this little protrusion here is actually a little nipple you saw poke up through the hole inside the car. Now, I didn't see anything like this in this kit, so we may have to reuse this. Luckily, it's in good shape. So, okay, we got it figured out here. Basically, how this is going to go together is this shaft is going to go through, again, mimicking the old one. So you can just kind of go through the bushings there, just like that. Well, not really like that. It's actually going to go in like this, just like that. And let's get a big old lock washer here, and a big nut. And on the back, we have another washer, a lock washer, and another nut. They basically go together just like that. That pretty much replicates what we had there. On top, we've got these bushings. And the bushings are going to go, and I'm not going to cut this yet. What I'm going to try to do is install this from the bottom up first and then cut this so that this shaft ends up going through the hole and not through anything else. Else I'll be fighting the shock, but we'll see how that goes. I'm also going to have to keep it from, try to get these bushings on before it goes all the way up. Can't say I'm real confident about the way this looks, but as far as these bushings, I really kind of like the design of the old ones better. But the first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to put some grease on these shafts and these bushings, because we don't like to hear our bushings squeak, do we? No, we do not. So a little bit of grease on these bushings, just to be sure they do not squeak. You should do the same thing to urethane bushings. Any bushings, you should put a little grease on them. This is a high temp grease too, so I'm going to do the same on the shafts here and on all the bushings. I'm going to lube them up real nice. So we'll come back. Age-old problem. You have to install the shock, but it's usually tied up with some kind of band. Well, you have to take the band off to get it through the hole. But if you take the band off, the shock compresses. And if you don't have a lift, you can't compress that thing and jam it up in a hole fast enough to be able to do anything. So what is the solution? Well, here's mine. I basically take the tire jack from the car, put it under the shock and jack it up, because it's just enough force to push the shock up to get it to match up to the hole. Let's see here. See, it's going up. Almost there. Just about there. Working one-handed, guys, so give me a break. That should be just about right. Let's see if we can pull this forward. Close. Put it down just a little bit. That should be just about right. There we go. Houston, we've made contact.